If you missed part 1, here's what you need to know. Amara was drugged and walked into the wrong hotel room. Instead of meeting the predator who had been stalking her, she found the CEO she'd been obsessed with for 2 years. They spent the night together. Then she got fired. And now he's searching for her like his life depends on it. But what happens when he finally finds her? That's when everything gets complicated. That's when the real truth starts to emerge. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. Let's dive into part 2. Amara's apartment was so small that when she heard the knock, it echoed through every room. She was sitting on her bed, half-packed suitcase open beside her, a plane ticket to Lagos printed out on her lap. She had made the decision the night before: leave Seoul, leave the hotel, leave the memory of Kang Chi, leave everything that made her feel small. The knock came again, harder this time, more insistent. She opened the door expecting the landlord. Instead, Kang Chi stood there in a black hoodie and dark jeans, looking nothing like the untouchable CEO from the office tower. He looked human. He looked desperate. He looked like a man who hadn't slept. "How did you find me?" Amara whispered. She didn't invite him inside. "I own a media empire," he said quietly. "Finding one person in Seoul isn't difficult when you have resources." He paused. His eyes searched her face like he was trying to memorize something. "Can I come in?" She almost said no. But something in his voice, something stripped raw and honest, made her step aside. The apartment was pathetic. One room, a bed, a table, curtains she had sewn herself from old fabric. Kang Chi looked around and didn't flinch. He didn't offer pity. He just saw it. He sat down on the edge of her bed without asking permission, and when he spoke, his voice was different, softer, broken. "My mother was a cleaner," he said, "not as an introduction, as a confession. In my building. 30 years ago, she cleaned those same floors you clean, same hallways, same invisible life." Amara froze. She didn't sit down. "I was 16 when she finally told me," Kang Chi continued, staring at his hands. "She had hidden it from me my entire childhood because she was ashamed. She thought if I knew, I would be ashamed of her. Of us." His voice cracked slightly. "I spent the next decade trying to distance myself from that reality. I climbed higher and higher, trying to get so far away from it that I could forget she had ever been invisible." He looked up at Amara, and his eyes were wet. "And then you started working there. Every single morning, I watched you greet me. I watched you bow. I watched you make yourself smaller and smaller. And every time I saw you, I saw my mother. I saw myself. I couldn't handle it, so I trained myself not to see you. I told myself it was professional, it was appropriate, it was necessary. But the truth?" He stood up and walked toward her. "The truth is, I was a coward. I couldn't face what you represented." Amara's chest was tight. She wanted to believe him. She was terrified to believe him. "Until that night," Kang Chi said, "when you walked into my room and for the first time you weren't invisible anymore. You were real. You were there. And I couldn't pretend not to see you." He reached for her hand. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for every morning I walked past you. I'm sorry for every time I made you feel like you didn't exist. I'm sorry for what happened at the hotel, but I'm not sorry I finally saw you." Amara pulled her hand away. Tears were streaming down her face, but her voice was steady and cutting. "You think an apology fixes this?" she said. "You think telling me your sad story about your mother makes it okay that you used me?" She grabbed her plane ticket from the bed and held it up. "I'm leaving. Tomorrow morning. And you can't fix that by throwing money at it or by telling me about your trauma. You don't understand what it's like to be me. You were born into power. I was born into survival. We're not the same, Kang Chi. We will never be the same." He took a step back like she had physically hit him. "Amara, no," she cut him off. Her voice was shaking now, but not from weakness, from anger, from years of holding it inside. Do you know what happened after that night? I got fired. They called it performance issues. But we both know Suki did that. We both know she destroyed my life because she's working for Kwan. And you just let it happen. You let me walk around for 2 days not knowing my job was gone. You let me figure it out from a manager who didn't even have the decency to give me a warning. Kang-chi opened his mouth to respond, but she kept going. And the worst part? The absolute worst part is that I still don't know if any of it was real. The kiss, your words, the way you looked at me. Was any of it real, or was it just you feeling guilty? Were you actually seeing me, or were you just trying to save yourself from your own guilt about your mother? The room went silent. Kang-chi's face crumpled. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. I deserved that, he said. He sat back down on the bed, and for a moment he just sat there, just breathed. You're right. About all of it. I should have told you about the firing immediately. I should have called you. I should have asked you what you needed instead of deciding what I thought was best for you. He looked up at her with raw, honest eyes. I did to you exactly what Kwan tried to do. I just used a nicer suit and better words to do it. Amara wasn't expecting him to admit it. She wasn't expecting him to not fight back. Tell me what you want, Kang-chi said quietly. Right now. This moment. Forget about me. Forget about your job. Forget about Kwan. What do you want to do? And I'll respect it, even if it means you get on that plane and I never see you again. Amara opened her mouth, but nothing came out, because the truth was she didn't know anymore. She had spent so long just surviving that she had forgotten how to want things. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what I want. I just know that I'm scared. Kang-chi stood up slowly and approached her, but he didn't touch her. He just stood in front of her, completely vulnerable. Tell me what you're scared of, he said. I'm scared that if I stay, if I let you in, you'll realize I'm not worth the mess, Amara said, her voice breaking. I'm scared that this whole thing is just you feeling guilty. I'm scared that I'm going to give you everything, and one day you're going to remember that I'm still just the girl from the cleaning staff. I'm scared that I'll wake up one day and realize I was just a project for you, a way to heal from your mother issues. Kang-chi listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't make excuses. He just listened. I've been watching you for 2 years, he said finally. Before that night, before you walked into my room, I noticed you from the moment you started at the building. I know you arrive at 5:47 every morning. I know you always tie your braids the same way. 3 cornrows down the center, always perfectly symmetrical. I know you carry a lunchbox with homemade jollof rice because I've smelled it in the hallway. I know you bow even when people don't greet you back. I know you work 2 jobs and somehow still manage to make your apartment feel like home with things you've made yourself. He stepped closer. I wasn't watching you because I felt guilty. I wasn't watching you because of my mother. I was watching you because you fascinated me, because you moved through the world with so much grace and dignity despite having every reason to be angry, because you chose to be kind even when nobody was kind to you, because I was scared of what it would mean if I actually let myself see you. Tears were streaming down Amara's face now, not because she was sad, because she was angry. Angry at every moment she had wasted feeling invisible. Angry at herself for being afraid. Angry at the world for making her doubt whether someone could actually see her. I don't know how to do this, she said. I don't know how to trust you. Then don't, Kang-chi said simply. Not yet. But stay. Not for me. For you. Stay because you deserve to find out who you are when you're not just trying to survive. Stay because you've been invisible long enough. Stay because I see you, and maybe one day you'll start to see yourself the way I see you. Amara closed her eyes. The plane ticket was still in her hand. Everything was pushing her to leave. Logic. Fear. every survival instinct she had developed over the years, but something else was pushing back, something that whispered that maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop running. She opened her eyes. Kang-chi was waiting. "If I stay," she said slowly, "things have to change. I don't want your money. I don't want you to fix my problems. I want a job, a real job, something I earn, something I can look at and know I did it myself. Not because someone felt guilty." Kang-chi nodded immediately. "Done. I'll have my HR department create a position. Marketing assistant, full salary, benefits, and you'll earn every second of it. And if you ever make a decision about my life without asking me first, I'm gone," Amara continued. "You don't get to play savior. You don't get to decide what's best for me. You ask, you listen, you respect what I say, or we're finished." "I understand," Kang-chi said. "And I need time," Amara added. "I need time before anything happens. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not terrified." Kang-chi reached out and gently took the plane ticket from her hand. He didn't tear it up, he just set it on the table. "Take all the time you need," he said. "I've been waiting 2 years already. I can wait as long as it takes." For the first time since that night in the hotel, Amara smiled. It was small. It was fragile. But it was real. Kang-chi downstairs, outside her building, things were happening that neither of them knew about. Kwan sat in the back of a black car, watching the building through tinted windows. His phone was pressed to his ear, and his voice was cold as ice. "I don't care what you're doing," he said to whoever was on the other end. "This needs to be handled." Kang-chi is making moves I didn't anticipate. He's been digging into Suki's background. He's been accessing security footage. He's asking questions about my involvement with the hotel. He paused, listening. "No, you need to listen to me very carefully," Kwan continued. "Amara was never just about me wanting her. She was leverage. She was supposed to be the thing that kept Kang-chi in line. But he's getting protective. He's getting emotional. That's not part of the plan." Another pause. "I need you to accelerate the timeline, and I need you to make sure that when Amara finds out the truth about what's really happening, she knows exactly who to blame." Inside the building, Kang-chi was holding Amara while she cried. He didn't know that Kwan was orchestrating something far larger than either of them understood. He didn't know that Amara wasn't just a girl who had walked into the wrong room. She had been targeted, chosen, set up. But Kwan knew. And he was about to make sure that Kang-chi's entire empire came crashing down. Kang-chi 3 days later, Amara was sitting at her new desk in Kang-chi's marketing department. Real job, real salary, real title. For the first time, she felt like she actually belonged somewhere. Her co-workers treated her normally. Nobody knew about her past. Nobody knew about the hotel or the night or any of it. She was just another employee, and that anonymity felt like freedom. She was in the middle of reviewing a campaign proposal when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Kang-chi. Hello, Amara. I'm sure Kang-chi hasn't told you the whole story about why I chose you. He won't, because he doesn't know the whole story himself. But I do. And soon, you will too. Check your email. I've sent you something very interesting." Kang-chi Amara's stomach dropped. She opened her email and found a message from the same unknown number. Attached was a video file and a document. Her hands were shaking as she clicked. The video started playing. It was surveillance footage from inside the hotel. She saw herself walking through the lobby. She saw Suki handing her the drink, but then the angle shifted and she saw something she hadn't seen before. In the background, partially obscured by a column, was Kang-chi, watching. From the very beginning. Number. Not just watching. He was on his phone, making a call. At the exact moment Suki handed her the drink, Amara's breath came shallow and fast. She opened the document with trembling fingers. It was a contract, a business agreement, between Kang-chi's company and Kwan's company, dated 2 years ago. It outlined a merger, a partnership, a deal worth billions, and at the bottom there was a note in Kwan's handwriting. Kang-chi, Kang-chi. The girl is in position. Once you have her, the deal closes. And her family back in Nigeria gets taken care of. Everyone wins. Except, of course, her. Kang-chi Amara read it again, and again. Each time the words made less sense and more sense simultaneously. Her phone rang. It was Kang-chi. "Amara, I'm going to need you to step into my office," he said, and his voice sounded strange, tense. "We need to talk about something." She didn't move. She was staring at the contract, at the video, at the words that said her entire relationship with him had been orchestrated. "Amara?" Kang-chi's voice came through again. "Did you hear me?" She hung up the phone, and in that moment, everything changed again. Because now she knew. He had known. Or he had been complicit, or he had been manipulated just like she had. She didn't know which scenario was worse. When she finally walked into his office, Kang-chi was standing by the window looking out at Seoul. He didn't turn around immediately. When he did, his face was grave. "I need to tell you something," he said, "and I need you to listen before you react. Because I should have told you this 3 days ago, and I didn't, and that was a mistake." Amara didn't sit down, she just waited. 2 years ago, I made a deal with Kwan, Kang-chi began, a business partnership. It was supposed to expand my company's reach into new markets. It was supposed to make us both rich and powerful. But Kwan wanted more than just a business deal. He wanted leverage, insurance. He wanted something that would keep me obligated to him, something I couldn't walk away from. He paused, his jaw clenched. "That something was you. He told me about you first. He had already been watching you at the hotel. He had already made his plan to use you to manipulate me. And instead of refusing, instead of protecting you, He struggled with the words. "I didn't stop him. I didn't know he was going to drug you that specific night. I didn't know about the hotel room. But I knew he was interested in you. And I did nothing." Amara felt something inside her shatter. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you agree to that?" Kang-chi looked directly at her, and his eyes were filled with shame. "Because he said it would save my company. Because I was drowning in debt and this partnership was going to save everything I had built. Because I was a coward. Because when he described you, your strength, your grace, the way you moved through the world like you owned it, I became obsessed with the idea of you before I ever actually saw you." He stepped toward her, but she backed away. "And then you started working at my building," Kang-chi continued, his voice breaking. "And you were exactly as he described. And instead of stopping the plan, instead of protecting you, I convinced myself that I was watching over you. I convinced myself that as long as I was close by, nothing bad would happen to you. But that was a lie. That was me being complicit in my own manipulation of you." Amara couldn't breathe. Everything she had started to believe, everything she had started to feel, was built on a foundation of lies. "When did you know?" she asked. "When did you realize what Kwan had actually done?" Kang-chi was quiet for a long moment. "The morning after," he admitted, "when I woke up next to you and realized that you had been drugged, that you hadn't chosen to be there. That's when I knew everything. That's when I understood the full depth of what I had allowed to happen." "And you didn't tell me," Amara said. It wasn't a question. "No," Kang-chi said. "I didn't. Because I was a coward. Because I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you would leave. And I had just found you. I had just started to see you as more than just a girl I was watching. I had just realized that I actually felt something real for you. And I couldn't bear the thought of losing that." Amara turned away from him. She walked to the window and looked out at Seoul. The city looked the same as it always had. Cold, indifferent, uncaring about the lives it crushed beneath it. "I need to know everything," she said quietly. "I need to know exactly what Kwan's plan was. I need to know what role I was supposed to play, I need to know if there's anything else you're lying about. Kang Chi took a breath. Your family? He said, and the words fell like stones. Your mother, your sisters, back in Lagos. Kwan has been taking care of them, paying for your youngest sister's education, covering your mother's medical bills. He was leverage, Amara. He had your family. He still has your family. And if you expose what he's done, if you go to the authorities, he's going to destroy them. Amara felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Everything she had thought was love had been a cage, and the man she had started to trust had built the bars. She didn't say anything. She just walked out of his office. And as she walked past his assistant, past the people who knew nothing of her story, past the windows that showed Seoul sprawling endlessly below, one thought kept running through her mind. She had been invisible for so long that when someone finally saw her, she hadn't known how to tell the difference between being seen and being hunted. And now, the real game is just beginning. Because Kwan had made sure of one thing. He had made sure that when Amara found out the truth, she would have no choice but to play along. Because her family's survival depended on it. She was no longer invisible. She was worse. She was a prisoner, and her captor was smiling. Make sure you're subscribed for part 3, because what happens next will change everything you thought you knew about this story. The comments are waiting for your theories. What do you think Amara is going to do?